Okay, so we are up to day 195 of going through my old journal. And the quote for today says, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." Okay, so that's like a Stoic quote. It says, "Do you get easily offended or wear your emotions on your sleeve? How emotional of a person are you?" So if you're following along, you may take a second to pause and think about how you may respond to that. And I will read what I wrote. Okay, so I said I used to pride myself on not being too emotional. Like, I was a chill, laid-back girl that didn't cause drama like all the other girls. And I think I mentioned this the other day when I said, like, thinking back and hearing people talk about, like, girls being, like, a pick-me girl. To some extent, I feel like I was that a little bit, and this, like, explains that. I said, thankfully, I didn't really vocalize those feelings, but I admit I used to take it as a compliment when guys would say that I'm not like the other girls. And I said, now I realize that the reason they said that and felt like that and like that is because they knew that I would be easier to manipulate and take advantage of. And so I said, they all complain that their wives are too, and I said, bitchy, and are always nagging them. But when they have a woman that isn't like that, they'll walk all over them. I said, I'm generalizing, of course, but that seems to be the fate of most relationships. I said, but back to the topic. I said, no, I don't get easily offended at all. I said, which is almost necessary to stay sane in this world of social media. I haven't had many people be rude or mean to me in general, but if someone is, I don't let it bother me. I said, I'm pretty happy with myself and where I'm at in life, so there's very little that would bother or offend me. I mean, I don't like being talked down to by people, but I wouldn't say it offends me. If anything, it just makes me feel less about them and makes me want to avoid them. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm emotionless, but I don't tend to get like, I don't feel like I get too triggered or like reactive most of the time. And I do think my hormones do play into this, because I would say like 80% of the time, like, things don't really like trigger me and I don't really feel like I need to react to things. But there are certain times that like I can feel things trigger me, but I don't often like immediately react to it. And especially like now that I've realized, I'm like, when things do trigger me, I feel like it's better like not to react immediately, because normally if I just let it sit for a minute, it will go away and I can think a little bit more rationally about it. So, but I do find that when I'm around people who do get like really worked up or easily triggered, that kind of like, what am I trying to say? I'm thinking to say like wears off on me, but I don't think that's the right phrase. Like, I do end up finding myself being more triggered about things that normally I wouldn't be triggered about. And I think I've talked about this, like, there are a lot of things that I'm just like oblivious to and I don't notice, especially when it comes to like other people. If other people are acting a certain way, like, I don't typically like notice or take offense to the way people are acting. But I've had like friends or relatives that are just very judgmental of other people. And when I'm around those people, even though I myself wouldn't have any sort of like opinions or judgments about them, when you're around someone that's constantly like judging other people and saying negative things about other people, it's hard to not like start seeing that yourself because somebody else is like pointing it out to you. But I haven't really had that happen because I haven't been like around a lot of people for the last couple of years. But I find myself that I'm changing on that too, because even when I am around people that are like judging other people instead of just like me starting to notice those things and feel that way, I find myself kind of like speaking up a little bit and like against it, and just saying like, well, you don't know like what experiences these people have had, like why they're acting this way, you know. And so yeah, but I think it's been beneficial for me that I don't, like, if somebody is very like would come up to me, if somebody did come up to me, so say, you know, if I am on social media and somebody makes some sort of comment negative about me, instead of like taking it to heart and like feeling upset about it, I'm just like, well, that's their opinion, you know, or whatever. Like somebody left a comment on one of my videos a while back. It was one of my review videos, and I think it started out with something like, well, you just really like to hear yourself talk, don't you? Like, I wanted to know about this, this, and this, and you didn't even say this in your video. And I was just like, instead of me being like, oh my gosh, I made a terrible video, I'm just like, that's that person's opinion, you know? Like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's what the video was. So, yeah, like immediately I was like, there was like a split second that I was like, well, I do ramble and I do, you know, talk a little bit too much sometimes on some of these videos. And yeah, I don't feel like I do good review videos, but the way I've kind of tackled my whole YouTube channel so far is I'm using it to try to keep me from being too much of a perfectionist, because like the old me back in the day, I would have like spent a whole lot of time like trying to make like a really good video and like writing out my points and like making sure I'm saying the right thing. But I know that if I would have done that, I would have gotten burnt out on this very quickly, because there would be like a lot of anxiety building up and like, oh, I've got to put all this work and all this time into it. But since I've just kind of like made myself not be a perfectionist, and I just turn my brain off whenever I make these videos, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do whatever comes out. And at this point right now, I'm not putting like really any major effort into any of these videos, because if I did, I think it would have really bothered me if I did like put a lot of time and effort and tried to make like a really good video and then somebody criticized it. Then I probably would take that a little bit harder, because I'm like, man, I'm really trying and like somebody doesn't like it. But since I'm not doing that, like I'm just like, I know it's a bad video. You know, you're not telling me anything, you know, I'm just hoping that some people, maybe someone will find this useful. I'm not trying to, you know, I don't know, stake my livelihood off of this or anything. I'm just putting this stuff out, and if anybody, hopefully some people will find it helpful. If you don't, I'm sorry, you know, that you wasted your time watching my video. But yeah, and I will say, like, even on, especially I find it happening on my videos that I do about my like my workout updates that I do every week. Almost before every video, there's a second where I'm just like, I get a little bit of anxiety, because I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I don't know if this is gonna be good. I don't know if I made enough progress this week. But then I just like, it happens for like just a second, and I'm like, don't overthink this, like just do it. And so that's the only way I've been able to make all of these videos and to make all of my like weekly like workout videos, is just I turn off that part of my brain that tries to like start to be a perfectionist, and I'm like, you know what, just do it, you know, just put it out there and see what happens. So I think because I've taken that approach, and honestly I've taken that approach to everything, and I think that's how I've kept myself from getting upset. Like there was a video, like one of these prompts a long time ago, that I think talked about like failing and things like that, and or like being optimistic or whatever. And I think my thing is, I go into this like expecting that everybody's gonna hate my videos and nobody's gonna like them, and that's how I've done with like all of my class projects and like every paper that I've written. like, it's almost like every time I turn it in or like I give a presentation, I just have this feeling of like, this is terrible, but it's done. And I get pleasantly surprised if people like it. So when people make a negative comment about something, I'm like, that's fair, you know? So I think that's why like it hasn't really bothered me too much. But maybe that's what the quote says. I'm just rereading this quote. It says, reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears. So if I have the expectation that it's not the greatest, and then when somebody says like, yeah, this isn't the greatest, then I'm like, okay, you're right. But anyway, that's what I have on that. I will be back tomorrow with day 196.